I'd like to share today about the value of microbes in our soil for our farms, and along with that, the value of inoculating with microbes to make sure that we have them in our soil. And we have a long tradition in this country, in the U.S., in the West, of destroying everything that nature provides us in order to grow our food. And that was said by Fukuoka in the One Straw Revolution many, many years ago. And I was quite moved when he said that. And my personal idea was, how can I apply that right now? But it's taken me almost 30 years. Actually, it's more like 50 years. to really learn what that meant. So there's two bases of what I'm about to talk about. And everybody, when they hear them, gets pretty upset. And it is very new information. The first one is that all soil has everything healthy plants need. I'm going to repeat that. All soil has everything healthy plants need. What a soil sample tells you is what is available in your soil right now. But what makes everything in your soil available is microbes. So if you have whatever is currently available in your soil and you add microbes to it, you will have everything that is right now in your soil. There's a corollary to that, or another statement in relationship to that, which is that the intestines of our plants require the microbe partners. So they are in the ground. Like with us, our intestines, the thing that process everything, is inside our bellies. But with plants, it's in their microbes. Well, so most of the practices that we use in farming are destroying those microbes. The chemicals destroy those microbes. The compaction from the heavy equipment and tilling are the major things that are destroying those microbes. So why are the intestines of the plant so important? So everybody knows about photosynthesis, the amazing thing that plants do. Plants and microbes together turned this planet from bare rocks into soil over millions, billions of years. So plants and microbes are still making the air that we breathe and making this planet habitable, even though we're going at great pace to try to destroy all of the ecosystems where the plants and microbes live. At this point, I would say about 75% of the Earth's ecosystems have been seriously compromised so that they're not functioning properly, which has led to, you could call it desertification or aerification, which has led to deserts all over our world. How it works with the plant digestion is plants do this thing called photosynthesis. So they're basically taking the energy of the sun and turning it into carbohydrates, and they're using CO2 from the air. And then what they do is they make exudates out of their roots that include sugars or carbons. Those exudates in the system that nature created feed microbes. So the microbes mine the minerals in the soil in return for the sugars or carbon that the plants create. And that system has worked magnificently until we started messing with it. But so that first layer that the plants do is called carbohydrates. So the first layer of plant digestion is carbohydrates. All plants can do this carbohydrate function without their microbe partners. But what they can't do is with the second layer, is make complete proteins. The third layer is make complete lipids. And the fourth layer is make what's called secondary plant metabolites. These secondary plant metabolites do amazing things for us. They're all the medicinal qualities of the plants, and they're required for our health or any animal's health. And most of this is lacking when food is not grown with its microbe partners. So a question you might ask is, what is stopping food from being grown with its microbe partners? So the main three things that are in the way of microbes working with their plant partners are the chemicals that we put on our food growing land, the compaction from the tractors, and tilling that land. Tilling makes a cycle where it's incredibly, the land is incredibly oxidized, which eats up all the microbes that are in there and doesn't leave them in any material to live on. So in our system, we leave all the roots in the ground. We do not till. And this video is not going to be about how to do no-till. There's lots of videos about that, and I'd like to put that on my website so that you can learn these methods. But right now, I want to talk about what happens when our food doesn't have the proteins and lipids and secondary plant metabolites that we need to live. And the simple thing, which everybody could understand, is we get cancer, we get heart disease, we get diabetes, we get Alzheimer's, we get chronic degenerative diseases because the food doesn't have what we need. And this is a shocking state of affairs. In most of the food grown in this country does not give us what we need. There's some really good trends happening with no-till, really, mainly in the Midwest, but there's a large bunch of people on the East Coast that are starting to do no-till. Farmers are beginning to see that no-till is a great alternative, and so there's a lot of no-till equipment available. That's very exciting. The main thing that all of these things allow, especially no-till, is the restoration of our ecosystems. So what does a functioning ecosystem look like? The microbes in the soil, along with a good soil structure, holds 250,000 gallons of water per acre. This is based on organic matter content. And this organic matter content is a very exciting concept because a lot of people have thought that that means we have to have a huge amount of mulch or a huge amount of green manure, when actually 60 to 70% of the organic matter in the soil can be made up from microbe bodies. That's often the dead bodies of the microbes that have produced and then died. That's the whole basis of the microbe inoculations. That you can, by planting a cover crop or planting whatever crops you want, and then spraying on microbes, living microbes, that they can start a process of growing this food in a way that works. You don't have to add tremendous amounts, especially of off-site materials. The way microbes work is they get all the minerals. Their job is to give the plants what they need, and then, as I said before, the plants give them the carbon or sugars that the microbes need to grow. So the more production you have from your plants, the more the microbes grow. So you're creating a system that they're making all the oxygen that that system needs. And they're getting it down with something like alfalfa. Alfalfa can grow 140 feet down when it's working with its microbe partners. Plants always need oxygen in their root level to function. So we're talking about a system that you don't have to add any external inputs. Not only do you not have to add nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, you don't have to add even compost. You don't have to add organic materials. And you can imagine what that does to your bottom line. You're not going to have to make all these additions so that it doesn't cost. It doesn't have those costs, and the productivity is higher, so you get more income. So this is a huge win for the farmers. Microbe inoculations doesn't mean much to very many people. Well, I've heard from a lot of people that microbe inoculations cost way too much money. And yes, if you go to your local plant store, it might cost you $25 for enough mycorrhizals to do 50 plants. It cost me $500 to do 25 acres. So I assure you, I am not going to my local plant store and buying $25 for 50 plants. So there's a place called teraGanix where you can buy something called EM1. That does amazing things for your bacterial population. And there's another place called fungi perfecti where you can buy mycogrow, and that is what inoculates your mycorrhizals into your soil. The way I actually recommend for especially large farmers is that you make it yourself. And there's a group on Facebook called Korean Natural Farming, where probably for $25 for 5,000 acres, you can make what you need. And I actually have a person next door to me that is making the microbes for me from that group. So you can also probably find friendly people in your area that can help make the microbes. One of the things about that Korean natural farming site is you can take pictures of what's happening, and they'll tell you if this is healthy or unhealthy, what you need to change it to healthy, whether you need to throw out the batch. So in India, where they've been doing it for thousands of years, or Korea, almost all your neighbors would know how to do it if you wanted to learn to make something. But here we don't have that, so you have to go on the internet and see somebody who does know. As this whole thing grows, we hope to have someone in every town making these. How do you get from here to there? The most successful people in making this transition are these, what they call consultancy firms. And I found 6 wonderful consultancy firms that are teaching farmers how to grow things with these biological methods. Biological methods meaning the microbes. And they're actually showing you what to measure. A lot of things farmers seem to want is, especially when they're making a transition like this, how do I know my plants are getting enough water? How do I know my plants are getting enough fertility? And so these consultants come on your land and check everything out and promise you that it's all going in a good way. Some of what John Kemp talks about is the plant in the first 2 weeks is, and we hear about that with human nutrition, that babies who are deprived of things that they really need in the first 2 weeks never really develop properly. And it's the same for plants. So in their system, they're talking about making sure that the plant in that first 2 weeks gets everything that it wants. So they are giving foliar feedings that include mainly trace minerals and microbe inoculant. A lot of stuff came together for me after I spent 2 years in India, and I was in a culture where they are working for 10,000 years with microbial inoculations. They never fertilize, in quotes. So the overarching concern here is that we're having massive droughts, massive flooding, massive fires from the ecosystem breakdown that these agriculture techniques, along with several other things like the concrete jungle, have caused all over our earth. And we can easily correct this. And as we said before, it's a way that all the people using these methods get better results. So the only thing in our way is the way people have been doing it, and that people like to do things the way they did it before. We're using this information to start an initiative or to pull together all the initiatives that are now starting to show us how to farm in this way. Right now, that is on a Facebook site called Let's Do It. We probably will have another name for it at some point. But what I'm hoping with this initiative is that all kinds of people will understand the value of this. All kinds of people will start going, we don't have to have droughts. We don't have to have fires. I'm on. How can I help? And we'll have thousands of ways, and people can maybe only do it 5 minutes a day and contribute to this cause. So that's what we're hoping to get everybody excited about. I'd like for everybody to go on that Facebook site, Let's Do It, and soon we will have another website for people that dislike Facebook. But I want you to go on that site, and there'll be like 50 choices of things that you can do. And most of them are working through your local community. So this initiative is a way to join all those things together. I was just working in a community yesterday where they're trying to elect people on their city council that will support these kinds of things in their community. And they need the material to do that. So we're gonna pool all that information. We want to coordinate farmers. We want in your community for you to be able to find farmers to talk to help you make these conversions. We want to work with the people that are working through the legislative bodies. One of our favorite things is working with children. Everybody says that the recycling all happened because the programs were all aimed at the kids. And the kids went home and said to their parents, "Aren't we recycling?" So that's what we want. We want kids to say, "Is this food gonna help me?" And so we really want to start, and there are some kids videos that we will put on our Let's Do It page. And so we want to coordinate all of those things through ultimately a website. At the moment, somebody told me about a piece of software that I could get for $10,000, and so I'm looking to get that, and then we'll start our website. And then if you're in some town, you can say, "I'm in this town, and this is what I'm doing here," and there'll be 50 other choices, and people can join you online. You might decide to have phone meetings. You might decide to actually meet. The other thing I'm very excited about is how do we learn together and make changes together? How do we work as a team? I think it's almost parallel the way this culture has not valued nature. We haven't valued the contributions we can make to each other. So there's certain ways that are known by people that are mainly called facilitators where we can learn to work together and support each other in amazing ways. And I think that's relevant to when everything that we're doing is destructive of nature's processes to feed us, and we find another way, whether it's another culture like India, and Korea probably has the same sustainable culture. We're coming from a very different place where our culture is based on competition. Everything takes away, or every person takes away from other people. So we're looking to establish a cooperation basis for this initiative and for our planet in general. Now that you know what we need to do, let's do it and start doing it together.